I'd like for us to meditate to a couple of my favorite songs. They're always my favorite songs, aren't they? Um, this is going to be Symbiosis from Joaquin Lovato, and also Solarization from the Zazen Samadhi album. So we'll meditate to these two songs. Let's take a breath. If this is your first time, I'd like to welcome you to our Enlightenment Sangha. We are a teaching that's based upon or focused toward enlightenment. Not everybody's interested in enlightenment. I was kind of surprised to find that out, actually, because I spent my whole life in pursuit of it. And, workshops and classes and exploring different religions. My whole life has been about awakening. And so it's come as quite a surprise that in this world, there's not that many people interested in it. And as my dad would say, he had a term, is it kind of bumfuzzles me. I guess that means confuses me. Most of the people are not interested in spirituality at all. They're interested in news, weather, sports, politics, sex, drugs, rock and roll. They're interested in tying themselves up and weaving their lives in with their family and their jobs and their possessions. And enlightenment seems to be one of those things that is either not considered or even wanted. And then there are people who want to be around enlightenment. These are people who will travel halfway around the world to be with a teacher. They want to be in the presence of a teacher. I've known many people who went from America, some of them many times, over to India to sit with Satya Sai Baba when he was in the body. We like to be around enlightenment. We love to sit at the feet of an enlightened teacher and feel the energy from that teacher. We like the places where the teacher takes us. But then when it comes around to saying, would you like to be enlightened? They back away. I particularly found that true when I was in the Christian church. Although Christ told his disciples, greater things than this you will do. They just didn't believe it. They didn't believe it. They didn't believe Christ. They didn't believe what he said. It's true in a lot of people, you know, whether I have been around people who've studied such great and enlightened teachers as Osho or uh, Vivekananda, well, not Vivekananda, but what was his disciple? Yeah, Vivekananda, yeah. And all these different teachers, been so many beautiful teachers. And people want to be with them. They want to be a devotee, but they don't want to become enlightened. Their ego is so strong and so ensconced inside of the mundane world that they don't even consider it's possible. And I have to admit, I kind of fall into that. I have fallen into that in the past. There was a time, it's full disclosure here, there was a time when I walked up to my teacher, and I remember it very well. It was in the lobby of the Wilshire Ebell Theater in a break. And Rama asked me about, he says, have you considered enlightenment? And while I was standing there in the presence of an enlightened being, I was able to see all of my flaws, all of the stuff that I had done. I've just felt that I was so far removed from being able to get to that level that I would never make it. And I said, yeah, but I just don't think I'm advanced enough. He just kind of looked at me and shook his head and walked away. Not the right answer. The right answer was that, of course, I'd love to be enlightened. But my ego wouldn't let me. It kept telling me I wasn't worthy. It kept telling me that I wouldn't survive, that I would have to change so much that I'd have to lose everything. And I wasn't ready to do that. But still, I liked being around the enlightened teacher. I sure liked hanging around with him. I liked to go into the desert with him. I liked going to his seminars. I loved every moment that I had with him. And yet when he asked me if I wanted enlightenment, even though I did want enlightenment, I just never felt that I could do it. I never felt that it was something that I could actually do. But I tried. I started to teach. A good teacher, when they see a student has grown to a certain point and can fly by themselves, will kick them out of the nest, tell them to leave, not come back, kick them out of the nest. I was kicked out of the nest. I couldn't figure out why I was kicked out of the nest. I had done nothing wrong. I had done nothing that the people that were being kicked out were accused of. And yet, that's what set me on the path to enlightenment, getting away from the enlightened teacher. And then I made the decision that I would spread the Dharma in whatever way I knew. I've talked about this many times, but there are some new people, so I'll go over it. I had studied with my teacher for only 1 year at that time. Years later, I went back and studied some more in New York. But at that time, 1 year. And at the end of the year, he kicked a bunch of people out. And I got the letter. And the letter was saying that energetically, I was no longer welcome and that I wasn't to contact him or any of the other students for a year. And I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. It was one of the worst things I think has happened to me. And as I was holding the letter, my older brother Warren came in and he asked me a couple of questions. He said, "Did you trust Rama completely before you were kicked out?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "What's changed?" Nothing had changed. He said, "You still trust him?" I said, "Of course." He said, "Then follow the recommendations." So I did. I got my 8.5 by 14 yellow tablet, brand new pen. And while he had his remaining students down in the desert in the Anza Borrego, I was up at Keys View in Joshua Tree with my tablet, writing out my life, listing all the things that I had done, all of my experiences, all of my education, all of my things that I liked. And as I finished that list and meditated for a little bit, I looked at it, and just like he said, I could see a trajectory that my life had gone into. Everything was leading me in a certain direction, and it was in a direction that I should teach. I never claimed to be enlightened. For many, many years, I didn't claim to be enlightened. But I was certainly, when I taught, I was definitely moving into enlightenment. Definitely, every single time. And I taught for many, many years. It's only been the last 4 or 5 years that I've allowed myself to entertain the thought that my teacher knew what he was doing, and that somehow in this process, I had become enlightened. Now, I have a different view of enlightenment than a lot of people. I view enlightenment like martial arts belts. You have your white belt, your yellow belt, your green belt. It goes up, depends on which particular martial arts you're practicing. But you eventually get to a black belt. And the black belt is a certain standard of accomplishment. I believe that when you go into samadhi, that you've kind of started qualifying for your black belt. You're just a first degree. But black belts can teach. They hold, they have little dojos around, first, second degree black belts. They can do that. And I did. A few years ago, a couple of people came up and they said, "Shiva, you're enlightened." And I'd never even considered it. But when I looked at myself and I looked at others, I saw, yeah, I'm not a 13th degree black belt. I've been in this for, I've been teaching now for a long time, 30 years. I think I'm up to about a 5th degree. My teacher was 13th, 14th degree. But that doesn't put me down. That doesn't make me any less than I am. It doesn't mean that I am not to be respected by people who study with me. But enlightenment is not just a sudden awakening and there you are. It is very much like that for some people. They have an epiphany, they have an awakening, But to me, it has to do with how you live your life afterwards. How are you conducting yourself? Are you putting other people ahead of yourself when it comes to the enlightenment process? Are you willing to, instead of taking the straight road up, which very few people can go, take a more circuitous route that allows more people to climb up the mountain with you instead of just going straight up? And I believe that I have spent the last 30 years doing the circuitous route up the mountain. And along the way, people will come along and they'll walk with me for a while, and then they may rest, go with another teacher. Fine, it's all God. It's all God. There's only God. Just this amazing experience that we've come to know as the Tao, the perfection of life, the oneness of everything, the movement of energy through creation. This morning I had a dream. And in the dream, I saw my father, my dad. He was born in 1912. And he lived to be like 89 years old or something like that, maybe older. Young for our family, if that was as old as he was. But anyway, in his lifetime, they went literally from horse and buggy days in New Mexico to people on the moon, computers, televisions, internet, smartphones. What an incredible journey, all the way from that primitive beginning through the Depression, through the Second World War, through all of the turbulence and upheaval of the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. He saw all of it. What a life. And as I looked at his life, I saw it all. I saw his entire life from his childhood up to his death. And I saw this, what appeared to be like this luminous rope of his different selves roping together and presenting that at any given time, depending upon his age and his experience of what he had to present to people. And I saw how I had been part of that, how my life had been interwoven with him. And throughout my life, even though when I go far away, we'd come back together and we'd have dinner or something, and we'd spend a few days together visiting. And I was in with his life, he was in with my life. There was a family feeling. It was so amazing. And then I saw my mother. I saw her life. And I saw how it had interwoven with my father and how my brothers, all of this had come up, and how my life was interwoven with their lives. And I was just moving through this life, this incarnation, weaving my life into their life, getting ideas from them, patterning from them, being part of them, being part of the family. And then my dream expanded out to all of my uncles and aunts and my cousins. And I saw this as a huge tapestry of different sentient beings coming together, visiting, like at a family reunion, we'd get together, or at a Christmas, maybe they'd come to visit or something. We'd get together and we'd communicate with each other. We'd be in each other's presence. we would share the world with each other. And then as I get older, they started peeling away. One by one, each one of them would exit out. And my tapestry that I had woven for my life, that I had fixed my whole life on, started having these holes in them from people passing away and changing into maybe somebody that I didn't even want to be around. Everything was changing all the time. But the tapestry of everyone that I have ever been with, especially family, but everyone that I had grown up with, and all of that was part of my life. And it's what I brought to the altar when I came into the spiritual experience of the Enlightenment process. I am very aware that everything is very transitory. I'm very aware that I'm very transitory. This physical thing is anyway. I'm also very aware that like each one of those people I had in my dream, we're eternal. We drop these bodies, we drop these egos, take a breath, maybe chill out for a little bit, and then we reincarnate. I was asked recently, about reincarnation, and I said, at the end of this life, if I have my way about it, I'm going to reincarnate right away. I love this world. I love this life. It's full of danger and excitement and adventure and sensuality and horror and grief and joy and beauty and ecstasy. And it has a complete range of feelings and experiences so vast that you can't express them. You can't understand. There's 10,000 of them, ways you can be. How much more exciting is that than to go to a world where you only have like 5 or 6 choices to make, and be kind of boring, I would think. But see, I also am kind of tantric, kind of. I'm very tantric. I see it all as the dance of Leela, the dance of creation, the movement of sentient souls coming together, like me and my family, and me and all of my high school friends and buddies and my college friends and all of the people I've known throughout the years, my girlfriends and my best buddies and everything. I have had a sharpened sense of life because I've experienced the dullness. I know what it's like to experience absolute pleasure and ecstasy because I have also experienced extreme grief and depression at times. The loss of a loved one usually brings that out. So as I'm getting older here, I'll be this coming November the 6th, I'll be 74. Wow. And as I look back on my life, as I look back on my dad's life earlier, as I look back on my own life and all the things that I have done and all the people I have known, all the experiences that I've had, the moments, the moment of being on top of a mountain in New Mexico, waiting for the sun to come up in the bitter cold. the moment of sitting around a campfire and having the smoke hit you no matter where you stood, and half of you burning up and the other half freezing. Yeah. What a wonderful experience. I mean, these things I remember. Isn't that interesting? If you look back on your life, you remember the good times, sure. But what really stands out? What really stands out are those war stories, those things that happened that were just so horrible that you somehow managed to make it through. And now 40, 50 years later, you're sitting around telling your friends, yeah, there was this time we were out in the desert and we got stuck and I thought we were going to die. And one of my friends happened to think, well, we have some friends, I can send them our location on a cell phone, and they found us in the middle of the Anza Borrego Desert, stuck in sand, 20 miles from the nearest water. What a war story, huh? I mean, wouldn't it be kind of bad if you went through your whole life and you never had anything you could talk about other than, oh, we had a good vacation. And I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that enlightenment's worth it. This life is worth it. This life is not a throwaway. This is a way that you can move and grow your being. Here you can burn off karmas. Here you can make real, deep, and serious changes to the DNA of your soul so that things that you handle here, the angers and the prejudice and the selfishness and all of these things that have held you back lifetime after lifetime, you can overcome them while you're in the body. Very difficult to do it when you're not. So the soul in the higher self incarnates us as a soul in a body. And that soul is here to explore enlightenment in this lifetime. That's its job in every lifetime, is to explore enlightenment. But most people never get above that bottom level. They never get up into even wanting to know about their divine nature. And then, as I said, there are people that want to know about the divine nature, but they don't want to just surrender to it all the way. They don't want to give up their life. They don't want to give up their stuff. They're afraid. What if I lose my job? If I get this and somebody, if I follow this group and they find out about it, I'll be ridiculed. So you live your life trying to match up to the values of people who are not enlightened. How frustrating. So I'm going to tell you the words you may not want to hear. And that is, you can become truly enlightened in this life. Not in some future life, in this life. You have to get out of the way. You have to stop telling yourself you're not worthy. You have to quit believing in the idea that the teacher is so far above you, you could never, ever attain that. I don't know of any enlightened teacher that has said you can't attain this. They all say, as I am, you will be. Enlightenment will take the form for you. It will develop inside your own heart. You may find yourself going a certain path and then maybe opening up to another path and then opening up to another path. And as you just kind of go through these movements of exploration of the soul, you start to awaken. And now our little Sangha is going through just a short time between now and the winter solstice. Every day we're doing one verse from the Tao Te Ching. One verse every day. Some days the verses are really meaningful, and other days you just kind of go, you know, but doesn't matter. One verse a day from now until the winter solstice. And then we follow that with a meditation. And I'm prescribing a particularly tough meditation practice and a very simple one. And that is to simply be here, now, and nowhere else. To be totally present. And I find that when I do that, because I have taught meditation for 30 years, I've taught yantra meditations, mandala meditations, walking meditations, sitting meditations, mantra meditations. I mean, going on and on and on. All these, I've taught them all. So when I sit down to meditate, I find myself stopping my thought. Then I find myself wanting to do something. I find myself wanting to say a mantra or watch my breath or just listen to the sound and travel where that sound takes me. The automobile, oh, it's going up the street. You know, it's in the now moment, but it's not in the here present moment right inside your body. So if only for 15 minutes, and particularly some mornings are really tough. This morning, it was constantly bringing myself back to the moment. And then I'd find myself drifting, bringing myself back to the moment. And then there would come times when I would be totally present. And this would happen. Oh, gotta come back. But I would have a few seconds, just a few seconds of the Tao, the Nahual. I would have a few seconds being absorbed in Brahma energy. Have a few seconds entering into samadhi. And then I'm back to work, watching my thoughts and watching my ego push here and push there and want to go here. And oh gosh, I got to tell people about this experience. This is so, there again, back here, just for 15 minutes. And I know it can be kind of a pain. I know sometimes, you know, the alarm bell goes off at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to get up. I want to lay there for a little bit. My teacher had us all running 3 miles in 30 minutes, which is kind of a very fast gated walk, actually. And he said, the hardest part is strapping on your running shoes. He says, once you get those on, it's okay. The hardest part about your 4 o'clock in the morning meditation is not hitting the snooze button, but even though you want to get another 5 minutes of sleep, pushing yourself up off the bed, sitting on the edge of the bed, rub your face a little bit. And then when you can, you manage to go into the bathroom and splash some water on your face. So you wake up. And then you go back in and you sit down and read the verse for the day. Set your timer. Do your 15 minutes of nothing, of non-doing. We're doing a non-doing meditation. You're not doing anything. You're not meditating on breath. You're not meditating on a mantra. You're not listening to music. You are simply in the silence, in the darkness, in the silence. Sometimes that 15 minutes may feel like 2 hours. Other times that 15 minutes may seem like 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. Do the meditation. This practice will bring more energy into your life than 2 to 3 hours of sleep. And you don't feel it. You don't think, well, how this is not resting at all. Your body is doing it. Just don't worry about it. You're not missing any sleep by doing this practice. You're moving deeper into your spiritual life, and you're learning to look at the nuts and bolts of how you're putting your life together. You get to watch every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning how your ego and your mind wants to go over here and mess with this, or go over here and think about that, or worry about the past, or worry about the future. And then anything at all, except sitting right here, right now, inside yourself, having tea with God. Just having tea, not asking for anything, not mentioning anything, just having tea. Present, right here, right now. It's an advanced practice. And you can do this for the remaining time we have between now and the winter solstice. I think we're probably, I don't know, I'm not even counting. Could count it back, I guess. How many days that would be until December the 21st. Do this during this time, because this time is very, very active. There's so much fear, there's so much anger, there's so much outrage, there's so much anger and terror, fear. We're walking through the valley of death. We fear no evil, because we have reconciled it. There's nothing to fear. How can you be afraid? You're God. Everything is God. Everything comes from love. Everything returns to love. We're just having an experience. And the more you can align yourself with your deepest, most sacred nature, the happier and more at peace you will be. So take heart. I'm not asking you to do this really awful meditation practice for the rest of your life. I'm just asking you to do it for a couple of months. Just a couple of months. Read the verse, do the meditation. And if you really want to have some fun, join in with Arjuna on Sunday afternoon at 4, where they discuss the Tao for the week in a discussion group. Have fun. Make it fun. You're going to be at home a lot anyway. You might as well pick up a nice practice that will get you through this time when you're feeling great, when you're feeling like you've never experienced in your life. In the middle of confusion and anger and outrage, you find yourself smiling and being at peace, being a little beacon of light in a very dark room, to be that little breath of fresh air in a very stale environment. You can do this. It's what you do. All of us can do this. All of us can become enlightened. And enlightenment doesn't mean you have an ego trip. Oh, look at people going to worship. They're going to sit at my feet. No. Enlightenment's not like that. That can be a byproduct of enlightenment. But there are enlightened teachers that nobody knows about. They just silently help out people on the underneath. I'm not going to codify what enlightenment looks like. We're individuals. It will look different for each one of us. And if the truth is known, and I hope you do know it soon, when you awaken, you will realize that you've always been enlightened. You're enlightened now, you will always be enlightened. And that everyone and everything is enlightened, has always been, always will be. There's nothing but enlightenment. And you say, well, gosh, if that's true, how come we're living the life we are? And that's because you're having a dream. Enlightenment's having a dream of an incarnation. And it's a shared dream with other beings. As I mentioned earlier, you know, the weaving together of the tapestry of my life, everyone that's in it, every experience I've ever had has been a tapestry, you know? And at the end of the life, I take off these clothes, fold them up, step over, step into a whole new set. That's a topic for another day. Hang in here with me. We just have a couple of months to go. The world is giving birth. And that what it needs now is it needs us. It needs us to silently and quietly immerse ourselves in the Tao, to learn to just flow. So that when all of these turbulent times end and things are being reconstructed in a new and happier and more healthy way, we will already be there. We will have shown the way. Embrace your enlightenment. Strive for that first black belt. Strive and let go. Learn to just let go of everything in your meditation. Continually letting go, and falling into that deep silence. And allow the enlightenment process to move you through its love and its beauty into a being of light. You become enlightened when you get rid of the darkness within you. And your darkness is ignorance. Ignorance of who you are and what's going on. When you get to that place where every world, everyone you meet, everything is shining in your mind, you've started enlightenment. So take heart. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. We're in this together in a happy, wonderful way. And always remember one thing. It's love that binds us together. Namaste.